Welcome to Distro Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Distro Podcast. Podcast is brought to you by Distro.io, the better zip recruiter. If you want to hire players anywhere in the world and do it in just a matter of hours, go to Distro.io. All right. Well, we have Robert Henderson here today. Excited to get to know you more, Robert, and your story. So it'd be great if you could just give us an introduction of yourself. I would love to hear about where you're from, your background, and what you're doing today.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you taking the time, Andrew. Where am I from? Well, that's actually a very unique question for me. I am a Peruvian New Yorker living in Nashville, which makes me just about the only one, I'm pretty sure. I have a wonderful family. I moved down here to Nashville about 7 years ago. Been married for 20 years, happy to say, and have an 8-year-old son named Benjamin and a 3-year-old daughter named Theodora. So I have my hands full with that. I'm a career sales and marketer, or marketer and seller, I would say. And have also, enjoyed an entrepreneurial journey building and scaling about 5 companies now. So that's me in a nutshell.
Awesome. I commend any and all entrepreneurs that also have young children, especially. I've got 3 of them myself, so that's great. And you said you're located in Nashville.
Yes, that's right. I moved from New York to Nashville in 2017. Still spend lots of time all over the place, especially in New York. It seems like all roads lead to New York for me. But yeah, like you say, between dad, travel, and entrepreneur, it's a pretty busy day. And
you mentioned that you've built and scaled 5 different companies. I'd love to hear, could you share some stories or some experiences you had with those companies?
Yeah, absolutely. It's been a great journey. My co-founder and I, and actually many people at JumpCrew now have been working together through a bunch of different companies and situations, and we're passionate about growing and building, and really what it boils down to is creating great products. We all started out together with a software company called LocalVox. It was content marketing distribution, sort of think of like a HubSpot, Hootsuite, or Buffer, or some of those. But like in the really early days when like those words didn't really even make sense, the only thing people kept talking about was like content is king, and everyone was like, "What the hell does that mean?" and it was a really great growing and learning experience, because the first couple of years were just such a slog. Like no one knew what the hell we were talking about. And just to give you some context, like at the time you couldn't even buy ads on Facebook, so it was like it was just
what time frame or what years was that?
So that was like around 2010.
Got it.
So it was just a different, maybe 2011. It was just it was like, in hindsight, it's so obvious now, but like content marketing, why would he do that? And we got laughed out of the room on almost every single pitch for the first couple of years, which was interesting. I just remember like the businesses we were trying to sell to were just like shaking their heads, like, what are you guys talking about? But the good news was that, when it caught on, when the market caught on to it, we were able to be at the right place at the right time. We're able to really scale the business. And that business ended up being acquired. And then when I spent some time thinking about what we had really learned in that business, what we really learned was the skill of acquiring customers at scale in a more automated, digital first way. So, we weren't the best funded. We didn't have the best engineers in the world. We didn't have the best product people in the world. We didn't have a lot of the things, we were fighting an uphill battle. But what we did have was an amazing user acquisition strategy where we were able to, digitally replicate ourselves in a multiplying way. And most people were just like shocked by how small our sales team was. And so we really automated the process, and that got me thinking. And me and my co-founder said, well, let's put that in a box and make it a business and call it JumpCrew. So that's what we did 7 years ago. And, today we work with the who's who of companies, global companies or all sorts of companies that are looking to get new customers.
Yeah, I mean, you hit it on the head. Like, if you can figure out that secret sauce, which can be different for every company, even competing companies in the same space, but of being able to throttle and scale customer acquisition. I mean, who doesn't want that, right? Do you guys focus on a certain type of industry as your ICP, or is it based on like size of company, or what does that look like?
It's an interesting question. We focus a lot on who our end user is. And so we're experts at selling products to independent businesses, small, medium-sized businesses across the country. There's a couple of reasons why we find that category really interesting. One of them is, pretty simple. The US GDP is really driven by small, medium-sized businesses. Two, the total addressable market is so massive. There's about 30 million businesses across the US. And three, we really like it. Like, we want independent businesses to thrive, and it's always been a passion of ours. And we would love to see, America be a place where, your mom and pop shop has a good shot, and so we like it for those three reasons. Now, the interesting part is our customers are typically large enterprise customers. So, think of like an X or an Experian or, a very large global business that partners with us in order to penetrate that user base, which is an independent, smaller size business. And we are typically in the technology, media, and software space. But then again, we have customers that sell toilets. So, no shame in our game.
No, that's awesome. Yeah. What is JumpCrew exactly? Like, you mentioned that you help companies with customer acquisition. Can you describe what your product is?
Absolutely. We call what we do growth as a service. And so, the pre-digital AI era was like, oh my God, I want to sell my product. I just need a bunch of salespeople. And like, it's true, you may need a bunch of salespeople, but you need a lot of other stuff to make that work. And what we're seeing over the last decade, and certainly over the last 24 months, is that decision makers are making their decisions based on a lot of different factors, but most of those factors are on their screen. It's really a digital first world that we're living in. And so how we combine the digital experience with the voice experience is really what our secret sauce is. So growth as a service has 5 pillars, which is data. Who are your customers, and do you have their information, phone number, email, LinkedIn handle, and so on. Content, how do you communicate with them? Video, call scripts, pitch decks, case studies, whatever it might be. Lead generation, how do you get your prospects to raise their hand? Revenue operations, how do you automate that as much as possible, taking them through a journey without a human necessarily need to do that? But then the human component of it, which is voice and culture, and how do you deliver a delightful experience every single time that you talk to a prospect or a customer? We put those things together, and if you master each of those things, you're more than likely growing. If you fail at any one of those things, you're more than likely failing. And it's pretty much that simple. And so we put those things together and we deliver growth.
You hit on that. It's vital. Like, if any one of those areas is not going well, your customer acquisition, your funnel, whatever you want to call it, your sales engine is going to be hindered for sure. I can understand why you guys are working with some of the big players for sure. We're going to shift gears a little bit, going back to something you had mentioned earlier, and in introducing our like core topic for this interview, which is hiring A players. I mean, how's that dynamic been? Did you just get lucky to start? Did you know them to start? You know, how many of them are there?
I feel like I've always gotten lucky, so I won't discount the luck portion into things. You know, there's a lot of us that have worked together for a really long time, and it's interesting, even outside of the employer-employee relationship. I'd say there's a big network of us that still work together in a strange way, even though we don't work in the same company. There's a group of people who I consider friends and coworkers that, you know, we've always just sort of grown up together in the business world, and so we appreciate the opportunity to support each other. And you know, there are people in our sort of humble beginnings that have moved on to do some really great things. I probably still work with about 15 of them on a day-to-day basis, which is pretty exciting, and we've done all kinds of businesses and projects together. I think a lot of that, it really comes down to values and partnering with people that have the same value system as you have. I'll give a really simple example. One of our values at JumpCrew is urgency. And it's like nails on a chalkboard if you are an urgent person to work with a not urgent person. And if you are a not urgent person to work with an urgent person. Like those two things just don't mix. And
100%.
yeah, so realistically, you know, I don't know if it would be fair to say if there was a right or wrong. You know, some people don't feel a sense of urgency, and you know, who am I to judge that? I just know I don't want to work with them. You know what I mean? Because
Fair enough. Yeah.
It's not the same velocity that we're going to hit, and so everyone that I work with understands that I have a great sense of urgency, and so if we're going to work together, we all need to have a great sense of urgency, or we're just going to hate our lives. And so we tend to, you know, be a bunch of people that automatically react with a great sense of urgency. So this is just one example of how like values translate to who you should work with and who you shouldn't work with.
I love that. Me and my partner, we've worked together for, I don't know, this is our second venture, and our first as co-founders. And so it's, yeah, we can relate on the values component for sure. I'm curious, separately from, you know, making sure that the, you know, when you are hiring, that your candidates that you are taking interest in progressing with, that they relate and fit within the values. What else do you do to ensure that you are, you know, hiring and finding and hiring the A players?
It's a great question. I think understanding the competencies that you need is another really important portion of hiring A players. You know, I use the word competency very deliberately because it's not necessarily skills. It's a competency, right? And so, as an example, if you're looking for grit as a competency, well, you can find the smartest person in the world that has every skill set that you need on a piece of paper to do a really hard engineering job, and that person can fail because they don't have the one competency it would take, which is getting punched in the face 100 times to break through. But if you don't have the skill of being patient or the competency of being patient, then you will fail at that role. So just really understanding the competencies you're looking for, I think, is one of the most important things you can do to hire A players.
Awesome. That's great. Me and my business partner, that is about core value that we rate pretty high for ourselves is trust your gut. Yeah,
Lots.
extra get.
I like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, it's always good to have the learning experiences as well. So, you know, you're going to have surprises, but it sounds like for you, it was something that you had a sniff of early on. We got a few minutes left here. Have you ever hired team members from other countries or out of the United States, outside of the United States?
Yeah, all the time. I mean, in this remote world that we live in, there's no reason that I can think of to not, and so it's an opportunity that we have, whether there's a shortage of the skill set here in the US that we need, or if there's some cost considerations to take into place. There's so many reasons why I think it's a good idea. I've taken a little bit of a different approach to it. People are like, we're going to have an Argentina team, and we're going to have a Bangalore team, and we're going to have a Thailand team or whatever. I don't really get that. Like, there's some stuff about time zones, I guess, that maybe makes sense, but we're not like, we're going to have an Iowa team, and we're going to have a California team, and we're going to have a Miami, Florida team. It's like, no, you have people that work virtually, and they are adults, and they figure out their time zone stuff. And if they, if they can work in certain pockets that we all work in, then it works. And if they don't want to, then they don't have to. They just don't have to take the job. You know what I mean? So it's
yeah, for sure.
The way that we do it, it's not like we have some, geographically based teams. It's just we hire people all over the world.
I respect that. It's awesome. To put our own plug in, that's what we built Distro for, and it sounds like you've had some great firsthand experience where, I think we'd be a little naive, right, to assume or to think that all of the best talent is, in our local geographies. There are billions of people around the world. Odds are you're gonna, there's some incredibly talented experts with great personalities, great culture fits, and being able to access them globally is key, and it also brings in different perspective. I'm sure you've experienced that as well, having team members from other countries.
Yeah, and as Americans, because it's such a big country and a lot of us don't travel, we can tend to be very focused on needing to have somebody here. But what we've found, especially when we're looking for a skill set that's very difficult to find, is that when you broaden that search, you get so many more options, and it's a little bit liberating sometimes. And when we were just hiring here in Nashville locally, sometimes you just reach dead end. There's just no more people to talk to about a specific role that you're trying to hit. And it's interesting. I'm very much in-person person. Like, I love meeting with people. I love having a lot of our team in the office. Over 50% of our team is here in the office. It just doesn't mean that that's the only way of doing it. Like, just because you like chicken doesn't mean you have to eat it every day. And so for me, it's like, there are some things that I feel like work better in the office, and there are some things that I think work better remotely, or at least the same remotely. And if there's a need that your business has, you should really consider it.
Absolutely. Well, Robert, it's been a pleasure. You've shared some incredible insight. Your story that we heard this much of it, I know, but it's awesome. Sounds like what you guys are doing with JumpCrew is making a big impact. And for anyone that listens in or watches, check out JumpCrew. Look up Robert Henderson if you're interested in implementing growth as a service and increasing your customer acquisition. Yeah, we'll go ahead and wrap up with that. Robert, thank you so much for participating, and we'll look forward to learning more about you over time.